You may swear in the witness, please.
Please give your full names to the court.
Laurentia Lombaard.
Laurentia Lombaard.
Do you have any objection to taking the prescribed oath?
No, my lord.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please raise your right hand and say, I do, so help me God.
Zweer u die genees wat u gaan aflees sal die waarheid is, net die waarheid is, sal die waarheid, sê so help me God.
Ja, bij God met die waarheid.
Witness is sworn in, my lord.
Thank you. The witness may be seated first. So, yes, Ms. Swanepoel, you may now address me on the issues
Thank you, my lord.
of Section 203 and 204 of the Criminal Procedure Act.
Thank you, my lord, indeed. My lord, this witness was in fact co-accused at a stage. The state withdrew the charges against her.
Die gesê as deel van skuldiges, opgesluit in die staat teruggetrek.
My lord, she did indicate that she was willing to give her full cooperation, and in that respect, a proper Section 204 statement was obtained from her. That was done whilst she was legally represented by Mr. Eben van Tonder, an advocate that was appointed specifically for that purpose. The appointment was done by Legal Aid South Africa, but throughout the process of the interview and obtaining the 204, as it's called, 204 statement from her, she was indeed legally represented by Mr. Van Tonder. My lord, in fact, the document obtained from her entailed that her rights were properly explained, as well as the contents of Section 204 of the Criminal Procedure Act. That forms part of the document itself, which was filed in the police docket and disclosed. My lord, from her evidence it will also become clear that there was also a prior document obtained from her, which is a so-called confession. The evidence will also be adduced with regards to that confession, that will also be adduced into evidence. Bekentenis. My lord, before we consulted with the witness, we again explained the proceedings, explained the contents of Section 203 and 204 to the witness so that she understands. My lord, also what could be the consequences if anything went wrong or happened in the process and the court made an adverse finding against her.
But who can discuss alles
My lord, it was also properly explained that it is only in the discretion of the court to grant indemnity or not, and that can only be done at the end of this matter.
Die president sal besluit van enige vrywaring. Dit sal geskied op die einde van die saak.
My lord, this explanation is specifically for the counts such as contained in the indictment. I mean specifically count 1, trafficking of persons, the alternatives, all 3 of them, the involvement in the trafficking of persons, and count 2, kidnapping. And it is only to those counts that it is in relation to that the state would, at the end of the day, request indemnity for this witness.
In die klagte by die hofsaal staat sal aanleiding dat sal vrywaring van beskuldigde aan aantal van die cases. Tijdens klagte sal die mensen aan is en die 3 alternatieve aanklachten van de betrokken bij mensen en verder als de mensen in die kant wat is er opgeschreven.
My Lord, in just one last aspect, when we consulted with the witness,
Hoe was consulteerd met de getuigen?
I mean, before we even dealt with the merits, it was again explained that she would also be entitled to have legal representation if she so wishes, even here in court to testify. That was explained to her properly, and she indicated that she does not wish to have a legal representative representing her here when she testifies. I now request the court to please explain once again the provisions of Section 204 and the appropriate other sections that go with Section 204 so that the witness indeed understands before the evidence.
Beter gedurende de consultatie met Lombaard het ons voorgelezen gezegd terecht om rechtszaak voor de moeders op de heer gedurende haar getuigenis. De woorden was het dan voorgedragen als het gezegd heeft, de moeders niet en steeds voortgaan zal de overheid om te kijken tot ik bij de achterpunt 4 wijzen.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Swanepoel. Ms. Lombard, did you hear the submissions made by Ms. Swanepoel, who is the lead prosecutor?
Yes, my lord.
Ja, helemaal gehoord.
Did you understand what she said?
Heb je verstaan wat ze zei?
Yes, my lord.
Ja, helemaal verstaan.
Do you confirm the correctness?
Professor die verklaring.
Correct.
Kwaliteit van de verklaring.
Yes, my lord.
Ja, helemaal.
So I'm going to explain certain things to you.
Er gaan zekere goederen die verdedigen.
It seems to me you also understand the English.
Het is ook alsof je Engels verstaat.
Yes, my lord.
Ja, helemaal.
I'm going to take a long route in the explanation.
We gaan een langere duur in verband met de verdedigen.
I want you to listen very carefully,
Ik wil jullie bij een keurig luisteren.
That's correct, my lord.
particularly when I get to the consequences
Voornamelijk is het kwambaar wat de navolger zal is
of this process.
in verband met het proces.
That's correct, my lord.
Now, firstly, no witness in any criminal proceedings, except where it's provided for in the Criminal Procedure Act or other laws, can be compelled to answer any question if the answer will expose that person to a criminal charge. In other words, nobody is obliged to answer any question in a criminal proceedings where you would incriminate yourself.
Geen persoon is getuige wordt gewoon om vragen te antwoorden wat hemzelf de persoon kan interveneren en ten dele vervolgen.
That's correct, my lord.
This protection is granted in the Criminal Procedure Act itself,
Hierdie beskerming is in die strafproseswet self
read with Section 35 of the Constitution.
gelees in die artikel 35 van onze grondwet.
That's correct, my lord.
It's an important protection
Het is een belangrijke beskerming.
as part of a person's right to a fair trial.
Het is een deel van de persoonlijke recht tot
That's recht, my lord.
And therefore, when persons enter into this type of situation,
As 'n persoon in hierdie situasie beland,
it must be read with your right to legal representation.
dit moet gelees word met die reg tot prokureur of rechtsverteenwoordiger.
Do you understand it so far?
Verstaan die verdediger?
Yes, my lord.
Verstaan die bepaalde?
Now, the Act further makes provision in Section 204 thereof
Die wet maak verder voorsiening in artikel 4
that whenever the prosecutor, as Ms. Swanepoel did earlier,
as staatsanklager bijvoorbeeld een persoon voor gemaakt
Yes, my lord.
in criminal proceedings inform the court
hele statig en hof inlig.
That's correct, my Lord.
That any person like yourself,
Dat enige persoon, zoals bijvoorbeeld u,
called as a witness on behalf of the prosecution,
geroepen wordt als getuige, als staatsgetuige,
will be required by the prosecution to answer questions that may incriminate the witness.
die zal verplicht worden voor de vraag dat ieder antwoord uitwerkt voor die soort incrimineren.
With regard to specific offenses, and I'll take you there later.
En verband met zekere klachten gaan die later daarin.
The
That's correct, my Lord.
court, if I'm satisfied that such a witness is a competent witness
Eerstens wil je opgezet dat je getuige
for the prosecution,
een goede getuige is van de staat.
I'm obliged to inform the witness of certain things.
Het is verplicht om jullie getuige van zekere goederen in te lichten.
Firstly,
Eerstens,
that you will be obliged to give evidence at the proceedings
de persoon is verplicht om getuigenis af te leggen in de zaak.
in question, like in this case.
En verband is zoals bijvoorbeeld in de zaak.
That's correct, my Lord.
So, on what I was told and you confirmed, I'm satisfied that you're a competent witness to be called by the state.
Ik is wat is de vinden dat niet werd gegeven staat.
Secondly,
Tweedens,
that questions may be put to you
vragen aan u soms vragen
which may incriminate you
waar u moet determineren
in regard to the offenses that I will return.
in verband met de klachten te doen.
However,
Maar
when questions are put to you
wanneer vragen aan u gevraagd wordt,
whether it's by the prosecutor
of dat je de staatsaanklager
or the defense on behalf of the accused
of die progress wordt in verband met de beschuldigers
or by the court,
of de hof,
notwithstanding that the answer may incriminate you with regard to the offenses that I will get back to,
of die vraag wat u zo gevraagd wordt omdat u kan determineren in verband met de zaak,
or any other offense which would be a competent verdict upon a charge related to those offenses
of andere klachten wat die dan aan de bevoegde klachten die kan bewezen worden.
that if you answer frankly and honestly
Als je eerlijk en openhartig het antwoord,
to all questions put to you,
alle vragen en gevraagd is,
you shall be discharged from prosecution with regard to the offenses specified
die zal vrijwillig in verband met klachten die wat die van getuigen, vrijwillig in klachten getuigen,
for the competent verdicts that I referred you to.
bevoegde uitspraken wat aan of uitgelezen.
Do you understand it so?
Verstaan jullie?
Ja, my Lord.
En we stellen
Now, once I have given you this warning,
nadat ik die verstaan waarschuwing gegeven,
you shall
die zal
give evidence and answer any question put to you
die zal getuigenis afleggen en enige vraag aan de wat aan u gesteld wordt
by any of the parties as I've indicated earlier on,
van enige van die partijen wat je voor het vloer van melding gemaakt hebt.
notwithstanding the fact that the answers might incriminate you.
Alhoewel die vraag die antwoorden zo incrimineren.
That's correct, my Lord.
At the end of the day,
Op het einde van die dag,
if in my opinion, the opinion of the court,
als het hoofdopinie is, zal wezen
that you have answered all those questions honestly and frankly,
dat u die vraag eerlijk en openhartig geantwoord hebt,
That's correct, my Lord.
you will be entitled to a discharge or indemnity.
dan zal u dan vrijwaren krijgen. In verband met de klachten.
That's correct, my lord.
In the event that you are not discharged
Als het nog komt dat hier is,
from any prosecution in respect of those offences,
in verband met vervolging verband met aanklachten,
any evidence that you have given here where you have incriminated yourself
enige teken van die zo afgewerkt of geplaatst heeft dat die zelf moet termineren,
will, however, be inadmissible should you be charged.
dat zal niet of aanvaarden als die termineren aangeklaagd wordt.
Do you understand that?
Verstaan u?
Ja, my lord.
The exception to that indemnity
Verschil aan de vrijwaren
and the admissibility of the evidence
en de aanvaardbaarheid van de getuigenis
is where you are charged for perjury in relation to the evidence that you are giving here.
dan kan je geklaagd worden, maybe en de geklaagd wordt hier aangeklaagd.
Do you understand that?
Verstaan u?
That's correct, my lord.
En spelen
The assessment by the court whether you have satisfied the requirements are made at the end of the proceedings.
als bijvoorbeeld, als wat ook al instantie of zou besluiten of dit kan gebruikt worden aan het einde van zaken.
Now there's normally an expectation
Dit wordt geklaagd.
by a witness who testifies under these circumstances
Hier is het in de omstandigheden
to be discharged,
om de vrijwaren te genieten.
and it's in the light of that I'm explaining to you when and where I will make the assessment.
Dit is waar ik weet wanneer en hoe en wanneer zal het niet beslissen.
Because the court does not evaluate the evidence piecemeal,
Te often, die wil weer getuigenis aan opzichte opleggen.
but rather holistically at the end of the case.
Alle getuigenis op de einde van de zaak.
Do you understand that?
Verstaan u?
That's correct, my lord.
En is dit
And are you ready with your evidence before I caution you of the charges?
als ik gereed de getuigenis voor de informatie.
That's correct, my lord.
Dat is correct, dat is juist weer bepaald.
Now, the charges that I have been asked to alert you to, upon which you may be granted a discharge from prosecution, or otherwise put in indemnity from prosecution, are the following.
Die klachten die wij hebben na een van de zaken van vrijwaren als de volgende.
It has a main count under count 1, and it has alternatives.
Een hoofdklacht aan klachten 1 en 3 alternatieve klachten aan klachten 1.
And these are
Hier klachten is klachten 1 is de volgende.
contraventions of section 4.1,
Voortdurend van artikel 4.1 en artikel
10.1a,
10.1a,
10.1b,
10.1b
and 10.1c
en 10.1c.
of the Prevention and Combating of Trafficking in Persons Act
In verband met die
7 of 2013.
bureau dat om mensen te handelen in verband met artikel 13.
The indictment also makes provision for all the amendments,
Dat kan die acte maar ook volgen in verband met verbeteringen.
but the offences are defined in those
Maar de klachten
sections that I have given to you.
zijn een artikel van dat ik hier niet gelezen.
Do you understand it so far?
Verstaan is zozeer.
That's correct, my lord.
Now, these offences,
Die klachten,
if convicted,
als ze schuldig bevonden worden,
also attracts a minimum prescribed sentence
dat zal ook veroorzaken dat de persoon minimum
of life imprisonment.
van levenslang opgelegd kan worden.
Now, insofar as it relates to those offences that I've told you of,
In In verband met jullie klachten dat ik hiervan gezegd heb,
the charge and the alternates thereto
klachten en die alternatieven daarin,
deals with firstly a positive act.
positieve houding.
The first alternative deals with an attempt,
Tweede alternatief is een poging.
and the second alternative is to incite, to instigate, to command or direct, to aid or to promise, advise, recruit, encourage or procure a person to commit the offences in the main count.
Tweede alternatief sal wees aanhangsel, aanstiging, opdracht gee om deel te neem
And the third alternative is when you conspire with other persons to commit those offences.
derde alternatief sal waar die samensweer in ander persone om hierdie misdaad te pleeg.
So as you can see, it's throwing the net quite wide.
Dit maak dit weer in verband met die klachten.
And the charges itself,
En hierdie klachten self,
the elements thereof is,
die elemente daarvan is,
are, when a person sells,
waar een persoon verkoop,
delivers,
oorhandig,
or exchange another person.
om een persoon te krijgen,
And
een persoon.
in this case, it's Joshlin Smith,
En hierdie zaak is het Joshlin Smith,
who was a six-year-old female child at the time,
meisie was,
within or across the borders of the Republic,
onbeperkte de grenzen van de republiek,
by means of various of acts that's alleged, which I will take you to in a moment.
van verschillende klachten moet dat gedeeld kan worden.
Firstly,
Eerstens,
a threat of harm.
of de reglement.
Further, a threat or use of force or other forms of coercion.
Gebruik van dreigementen of kracht van andere personen,
The abuse of the vulnerability of the victim,
die misbruik van kwetsbaarheid van die slachtoffer,
through fraud,
bedrog,
deception,
bedrieg,
abduction,
abductie,
kidnapping,
mensenmoord,
the abuse of power,
die misbruik van kracht,
and or the direct or indirect giving or receiving of payments or benefits to obtain the consent of a person having control or authority over another person. In the case of a child, it might be the parent.
of direct of indirect waar een persoon zou geven of ontvangen in verband met enige voordeel in verband van kind.
The next element also relates to the giving of receiving of what I've just mentioned,
Krijg of ontvangst, wat ik net wat ik voorgelezen heb,
aimed at the person or their immediate family or a member of the family or somebody that's in a close relationship to the person.
of een persoon wat een familie is, of een persoon die zelf
Do you understand it so far?
namen verbindend met de slachtoffer. Verstaan ze ver?
That's correct, my lord.
En is net een
And the purpose of all these actions,
de reden voor die acties zo,
of any form or manner of the exploitation,
en voor heel manier
in this case of Joshlin Smith,
en dit is in ieder geval als Joshlin Smith,
and that would include all forms of slavery or practices similar to slavery.
dit zo bij ons persoon zo slaverij of in verband met slaverij.
these offenses,
hierdie klagtes,
that's the main count that I've explained to you, and the alternates that we started off with,
die hoofklagte en die alternatiewe klagte wat ek genoem het,
are alleged to have taken place on or about the 19th of February 2024
hierdie klagte word beweer dat dit so plaasgevind het in 19 Februarie 2024
at Oneer Tsitsi in Middelbos hier in Saldanha.
dit so plaasgevind het in Tsitsi in Saldanha.
And for purposes of these offenses, the actions must be performed by the accused or the co-perpetrators
Moet gedoen word deur die beskuldigde,
unlawfully and intentionally.
regtelik en
In other words, on purpose.
opzettend regtelik deur die beskuldigde so.
So that covers count 1 and the alternates thereto.
Dit is klagte 1 en die alternatiewe daartoe.
Did you understand that?
Het jy dit verstaan?
That's correct, my lord.
I understand it, my lord.
The further charge that I should consider indemnity for,
Ander klagte wat ek hier moet oorweeg in verband met
that the answers to the questions might relate,
vraag en antwoord wat
will be the common law offense of kidnapping.
dit sal in verband met insult is.
The dates and the times and the place
Die datums, die jaar en die plek
of where the offense would have been committed is the same.
waar hierdie klagtes soms van gebeur het is dieselfde.
The content of the charge
Die inhoud van die klagte
is the deprivation of Joshlin's freedom of movement and liberty
is waar Joshlin se vryheid en beweging ontneem is.
to the extent that the whereabouts is still unknown.
Tot op die punt waar sy nog is, niemand wat kennis.
Do you understand that?
Verstaan jy dit?
That's correct, my lord.
I understand, my lord.
Ms. Swanepoel, are those the charges referred to in the request?
They are, my lord, I confirm.
Dit is 'n klagte bevestig uitklaar in verband met die voorval.
That concludes my explanation to the witness of the particular legal issues. I'm satisfied that the witness understands the contents thereof as expressed by herself.
Die officer verstaan die verdediging soos hy is.
As the
Thank
court
you.
pleases.
Thank you, Ms.